Welcome to the Captain's Quadrant. I'm your host, Jason. If it's the first time you're here, welcome aboard. And if you're coming back, it's great to see you again. I'm here with my crazy cast of reviewers, as you can see. Beneath me, I've got, I mean that literally, not figuratively, Jason Roy Gaston. How are you, sir?
I am living the dream, and believe me, there's very little underneath me.
Very nice. All right, to the other side of me, I've got a couple of the sci-fi queens in the house tonight. The first being the Captain Queen herself, Captain Nita of the USS Calentine. Nita, how are you?
That's caliente, but that's okay.
Caliente. I'm Australian.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm doing good. I got my first officer Navia right here with me. It's all good.
Yes, absolutely, Navia. How are you this evening?
I'm alive. So that
You're
matters.
alive. You look a little bit glitchy behind you there, mate. Your TV's having a spaz attack, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
There we
Turn
go.
off it a little bit.
That's fine. And you may notice, guys, we're missing somebody tonight. Yes, we are missing Captain Joe Dove. That's for a very good reason. And here's a clip to explain where he's at and why he's not on the show.
What's up, Spectrum Sanctorum? It is Joe Dove, and I am here at Star Trek Las Vegas. I made it. Viva Las Vegas, baby. And we're going to start talking to people, hanging out, having a good time. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys when I come back. I know you guys are doing the agony booth for the motion picture. Super jealous, but I miss you all, and I can't wait to hang out again.
Thanks, Joe. It's not an agony booth, mate. I'm letting it out of the bag. This movie's
He's not
awesome.
even here, and he's screwing things up. Do they still have Star Trek Las Vegas in the Hilton?
I have
No, sir,
no
we don't.
idea.
It's good because I couldn't go to it because I couldn't forgive the Hilton for getting rid of the experience.
Oh, okay.
Just
Fair
could not
enough.
forgive them.
Fair enough. So it is just the four of us tonight, and it's, as you guys would have seen, we're doing Star Trek the Motion Picture, which, I'm really excited about. And just to let you guys know, every month now, the first week of every month, we're going to be doing another motion picture film. So on the first week of September, we'll be doing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And then for the next 40 months, that's what we'll be doing, guys. So hold on.
Hold on,
That's a
I
new
have to
thing.
do this. Did you just call it a motion picture film? It's a
I did.
motion picture and a film. They're the same thing.
Okay.
I'm a big
I'll
fan.
cop
I'm a
that.
big fan.
I'll cop that. All right, guys, let's get stuck into it, and we're going to do it with a synopsis, and I get to read it this time. When an alien spacecraft of enormous power is spotted approaching Earth, Admiral James T. Kirk resumes command of the overhauled USS Enterprise in order to intercept it. That's basically the plot, in a way. I don't think you could really argue that. So,
One
So,
sentence
guys.
stretched into 3 hours.
yeah, it's not actually. It's only 2, all right? But it feels 7. But we'll
seems
get
like
into
3.
that. We'll get into that. And we'll get into that firstly with our first segment, First Contact.
Thanks.
Never gets old, does it?
A good
All
fart
right.
joke never does.
I'm going to start this one off because I've lived with this film for 44 years now, girls.
Dang.
And I actually got to see this in the cinema in 1979 as a 6-year-old kid. Now, what did I think of the movie in 1979? I didn't know what the hell was going on. But I know at that time, and what I was left with was something, it was a cinematic experience. Even though I didn't understand it, it was grand. It was epic. It was, I'm sure I had a nap somewhere in the film, but it stuck with me very much. And I've continued to watch this every couple of years since, and grown in love with it more and more. Okay, how about you, Navi? We'll go to the opposite end of the scale. When did you first see Star Trek the Motion Picture?
Yesterday was my first time watching it. I don't know. I've never been compelled to watch this movie ever. Sorry, Jason. He looked a little offended.
He's looking away.
I know. He's disappointed in me. I feel so bad right now.
The USS Caliente leaves without
I
the
know,
first
exactly.
officer.
I don't know. I've never been compelled to watch this movie, and after watching it, I kind of see why.
Oh, wow, shots fired early on. It's really fascinating, and I can't wait to talk to you further throughout this, Navia, because you're looking at it with fresh eyes from 23 eyes, which is, it's obviously a lot different perspective than some of us older people in the crew. Now, let's go with our next youngest member. Nita, what did you think?
Well, actually, I'm the oldest member.
No, I was trying to do you a solid and insult Jason at the same time.
I'm very proud of my age. Actually, you and I, Jason, are the ones who remember the movie. Back then, movies lasted a really long time in theater. So I gotta say that I didn't see it immediately when it came out because I was in Puerto Rico and it hadn't shown there yet. But I know we came back for like a summer, and it's so funny because I've forgotten this. And I have such a hard time remembering things of a certain age when I was younger. And rewatching this, trying to think of it, reminded me, my Aunt Betty took me to see this movie. And I was fascinated by it, but I don't think I truly understood it as I do now.
Yeah, it's definitely made for more mature audience, I would think. And talking mature, let's go down to Jason Roy Gaston. Your experience of the film, mate.
So I have a very strange experience with the motion picture because it was not the first Star Trek movie I ever saw. The first Star Trek movie I ever saw was Star Trek II. And of course, being a young lad, I think this was around 1984 whenever I saw it, because that's whenever it showed up on Showtime, back whenever we first got cable. I fell in love with this movie. I thought it was the coolest movie I'd ever seen. Begged my parents to take me to go see Star Trek 3 in theaters. They hated it, but I loved every minute of it. And then I asked them one day, I said, wait a second, if there's a part 2 and there's a part 3, what about part 1? And my dad went, no. Well, the dad says no, I have to know. So as soon as we got one of them newfangled VCRs, I found a copy of Star Trek the Motion Picture, popped it in that VCR and sat down and watched it. And I don't know, maybe I was like 11 or 12 at the time, and I remember watching it and thinking it was the most boring pile of crap I'd ever seen in my life. I was so mad. I hated the theme. I hated the uniforms. I don't even think I made it through the whole movie. I think I just ejected the tape and put in Ernest Goes to Camp or something.
Damn.
But my opinion of this movie has changed drastically, which I will get into later.
Yep, fantastic. And it is one of those things, isn't it? I don't think as a kid, it's really made for those youngsters. But you know what did stick with me as a kid, and I will, defend this before we get into the next segment, is the overture. Probably one of my favourite parts of the idea. And it was so classic Hollywood, because that's what I remember going to the movies when I was a kid. And you would have overtures before the credits played, boy. And that would be a piece of music, fairly generic kind of background like they did with the Starfield here, as a way to set the tone. And when I was watching it again, it kind of took me back to those old days of the theatre where you would have an organ player at some of these movies. You would have that kind of grandiose spectacle being propositioned to you. Very cool. But let's get into basically Fire at Will.
Fire at Will.
Oh, you're such a dick, Picard, aren't you? No, now what we're going to do tonight, because pros and cons is a hard thing for us to go through with a movie, I think we're best just kind of going through the movie and we'll discuss it openly. So I've mentioned the overture. Jason, you just said you hated the theme when you first heard it.
I did. I remember going and talking to one of my friends on the playground the next day, because that's what we did. We talked about things. And I said, have you ever seen Star Trek 1? And they're like, no. I said, the theme sucks, because I love that whole dun 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 from the second and third movie. And then this one I said, oh, it sounds like a military marching band. It's just the worst thing ever, which I know today is sacrilege, because that is the Star Trek theme. it's grown on me. I've matured quite a bit, and I rather like it. I would beat up 12-year-old me if I could find him anywhere.
What about you, Nita, with the music? What did you think of the music of this film?
The music was something that was really impressive to me when I first saw it. And just like being in the theater that young with your aunt, it's like a big deal for me. Because I hadn't seen my aunt in a long time because my family, my sister and my brother and my mom and I were living in Puerto Rico. So it was like a big deal, you know?
Mm.
Um, and the music kind of was like the setup for me. And I was excited because I've always loved the Klingons, so I was excited to see some Klingons.
Reason I asked you, Nita, is because
Yeah.
this is the first time we hear the
Yes.
Klingon theme.
That's right. And I absolutely love the theme then of the Klingons, love it now. I thought it was just perfect. Like when you hear it, Klingons are coming, right? And I think it kind of set up the whole movie, kind of amped it up for me. So I actually didn't have a problem with the music, but I do now in retrospect can understand where the issue for someone in the music is like not the Klingon portion of it, because I think the Klingon portion they kind of got it right on key. It really identified the Klingon, but the Starfleet portion of the music really was not at the same caliber as I think they definitely improved.
Oh, yeah, you would assume
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Yeah, they could have done
Now-
more.
Now, with the Klingon theme came the introduction of the new Klingon warbirds, Navia.
Mhm.
As you can see here, as somebody who has still got youth on her side, seeing the opening of this film, your immediate impression, if you can take us back, you're in that moment, the first 5 minutes, are red flags up already for you?
No, I absolutely loved all the models in this movie. That's the one thing I really loved. Because with the new Star Trek, we're just used to so much CGI. I loved all the different models that they use, and those bursts of praise were amazing. I approve.
I mean, there's some dodgy matte lines happening there, but it's
I mean,
1979, folks.
79.
Yeah, exactly.
Did
I
anybody
have
in
to-
1979 really notice the dodginess? I don't know.
No,
Because I thought,
we were blown away.
yeah, I thought it really looked like space.
I gotta
You know,
say though, I'm really upset that they changed the look of the Klingons, because those are not my Klingons. I don't like new things.
Oh, no.
They don't look anything like the Klingons used to look like, and therefore the entire movie is garbage. Yeah, Discovery people, that's what you sound like.
Yes. No, okay. And who is this Klingon, Jace? I know you're going to drop some
Oh.
science on us right now.
I know
but
who that is.
Who is that,
man.
Jace?
I had the pleasure of meeting that man, and I heard all about the behind-the-scenes shenanigans that went into this scene. That is Mark Leonard, who played Spock's father. And Mark Leonard told me in an audience. He didn't tell me personally. He didn't take me to the side. Hey kid, let me
Hey, dude.
come into my van. I'll tell you about something.
That sounds so dodgy.
No, he was a wonderful human being. Mark Leonard was great. But he said that whenever he was filming this movie, that he had a bad lunch, basically. And so he's sitting there, he's supposed to be shaking in his chair and everything. And he said the more that he shook in his chair, the more upset his stomach got. And he was supposed to speak this alien language. And so to get into the headcanon of this Klingon, he started to come up with, what is this Klingon actually saying? So he would say, and it was, I'm about to crap my pants. So I don't know if he was actually speaking Klingon. I don't know if James Doohan was there giving him notes, but that's what the Klingon was saying in the chair as he was blowing up, according to the great Mark Leonard.
But it is our first introduction of those kind of the head ridges
Yeah.
Klingons.
Yes, I like
and
them.
you could, and even back then you could see the kind of the proto versions. They haven't quite decided what they were going to do with the hair and things like that. But I think they were great, and I think it absolutely works. And again, the redesign of the Warbird, I'm absolutely. I mean, come on, it's gorgeous, right?
They just took that classic design and just plussed it, because you can tell immediately what it is if you're a fan. And just the extra level of detail. I love the D7. I think the D7 is just an amazing design. I wish they'd use it more.
Now, Jace, you'll be able to confirm it, and maybe you girls can confirm this. Is it the first time they visually show the torpedoes like this? Because I remember as a kid,
Yes, I think
blowing me away and looking so cool, that effect.
Yeah, I love the little rays coming off of
Yes.
it. I've always loved that.
It's just the little nerdy things, you know.
Yeah.
But
All the
anyway,
way,
It's
all
like
the way up through all the different movies, even the TNG movies. Every time I see a torpedo and the rays are coming off of it, I'm just, I just love it.
I always see the rays of light when they do the torpedoes as the energy of the power behind the weapon. Because we don't see the actual torpedo, right? The physical torpedo. All you really see is those lights, and that kind of indicates how powerful this is going to be. The greater the light, the stronger the power.
I like
Now
to think they look like disco balls.
a little bit. Now, what they're firing at is this entity that I don't think they're aware what it's called, but it's basically a Vija. So the villain of the film. I don't know if it's a villain. It's not a villain, but the antagonist, perhaps, is probably a better way
I
to
think
put
that's
it.
probably the better way of saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what they're firing, because Klingon, that's what they do, right? Let's just fire randomly at something that doesn't.
Let's
They
shoot
don't
at things.
understand.
Let's shoot at things and let's shoot at the thing that could blow up the universe. And
Well,
here we are. Here we are 50
Klingons-
years later, they're shooting at things that could blow up the universe.
Yeah.
Klingons
very
are
little
warring alien race, right?
Yeah.
And when they see something that threatens their existence, they will
Kill
act
it.
in kind. They'll kill it. Why wait? They don't really do diplomacy. That's not
Kayla
what they're
once said that only a fool fights a storm. What happened to that logic? What happened to that wisdom? Instead, it's look, it's a big cloudy thing. Shoot it.
Will they get theirs?
They could have had a whole discussion.
How many random nebulas do you think Klingons shoot at?
No, that's right.
They just
Probably
go
a lot.
along. They run into like the Orion Nebula and like, what is that? Shoot it!
But clearly it worked for them, didn't it? Because, they get electrified pretty hardcore. Great effect again. by the way,
I
for a
love
97.
70s and 80s effects where they had to
Yes.
draw them in and everything. And this one looks especially cool.
It does.
It looks almost
It does.
like Tron.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jace, Nita. All right. And Navi, you're all very well knowledgeable Star Trek people. What's interesting about this photo I'm putting up here? And particularly look at the man on the left. What's so
know.
interesting about him?
I know.
It
Number
kinda
No,
one,
looks
Jason
like
knows.
Lamega.
his chest hair is amazing.
Yes.
Secondly, that
Inform
is,
us, Jace.
I can't remember his name. I
No.
know it's David something.
Mhm.
But whenever they were going to create a Star Trek television show, Star Trek Phase 2, Leonard Nimoy did not want to reprise his role as Spock. And so to get that Vulcan character in there, they came up with a Vulcan science officer named Jean. Jean was going to be played by that actor, David Giro?
Might be. I think you're pretty well, yeah.
But he did screen tests and the uniform and the pointy ears and everything. And whenever they decided to switch to a movie and they said, "Hey, Leonard, we can pay you a lot of money now," and Leonard was like, "Well, I like money. I'll come be Spock again." David got demoted to a small cameo role, which I don't think he was very happy about because he plays the part as though he's made out of plywood.
He's a little bit wooden, there's no doubt.
We're under attack. You can tell by how worried I look. Yeah, you're
Now,
not
ladies.
Vulcan anymore, my dude. You can scream.
Now, ladies, the next scene we cut straight to is this one here. I want you to comment on the style of the hair.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is 70s, right, ladies? Like, that's
That's
personified.
Studio 54 awaits me hair.
Looks like he's gonna put a power sword in the air and transform into He Vulcan or something.
I'm telling you, the Beatles comes to
Oh
mind.
yeah. As soon as I saw him on screen, I took a screenshot of that, sent it to Nita. I was like, oh my god, he's a Beatle. We have a Beatle in Star Trek.
However, it is the beginning of the plot, this scene.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when I went back and watched that scene again, I found it quite powerful in a way. I liked the idea of him being so close to colonoscopy. No, colonar. Same thing. Being so close to colonar and
it's fine.
and then hearing that consciousness.
I'm going to pull out some trivia for you.
Yeah, please
Where
do.
was this scene shot?
Ooh.
Gotta be. Oh, I don't know, but it's got some pretty bad map work in this scene.
Yeah.
Mate. What the hell's going on there?
I watched the new version with all.
Yeah,
with
director's
all
cut's a
new
bit
stuff.
better.
Yes.
Yeah.
This scene with all of the boiling cauldrons of water, and with the Vulcan priestess throwing down the Kolinar necklace, that was shot in Yellowstone National Park. So those are actual hot springs.
Wow.
That's pretty cool,
They just
right?
brought in that big red foot because originally that was supposed to be a Vulcan statue, but as you can see from the picture that Jason put up, the matte painting didn't make a statue. They made some weird rock formation. That's why I like the director's cut that's on Paramount Plus right now, because they redo all that and it looks so much better.
Yeah.
It does, except for the opening title graphics. Not so good.
The opening title graphics are barf. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
they're pretty bad. They look like a bad 90s film. And Nita, the idea of what was her relation to Spock, the lady that throws down the necklace, because I was like, damn girl, that's disrespectful, isn't it? You're not going to get your colonoscopy. I'm going to throw the thing on the ground, and that's it.
I'm sure he could get a colonoscopy, but he's not going. See, she believed he was in colonar. Okay, she was the one in charge of kind of like saying, you passed or you didn't. You know, you got colonar, you didn't achieve it, or you achieved it. So here we have someone who thinks that he did, and Spock himself stops it. She did not realize he hadn't achieved it until she melds with him. I think she threw his necklace as a sign of, I'm pissed off more about myself that I didn't quite catch it until I meld with you, and you had to point it out, than you not actually achieving it. I think that was really about her frustration with herself, because she's at the level where she should have known from the very beginning when he presented himself that he had not reached Kolinar. There was something there preventing him, that calling to his human life, as she calls it. You know?
Yeah, and she's disgusted in that too, isn't she?
Yeah.
Just like all the Vulcans are disgusted in this human side of Spock.
I mean, you have to understand, they're still not embracing humanity in the way
Get over
that
it, people.
you
It's been
see.
100 something years.
Exactly, but they really, Vulcans, even in modern times, don't really embrace the emotions that humanity or any kind of humanoid brings. They're not big on that because they can't embrace their own, because theirs are so dangerous. They see all emotion as dangerous.
Do you know that's the last time we see Spock for like 40 minutes? We see him in this scene and he disappears for like 40 minutes. We don't get him seen back in the film. Jason, but we get this guy. And I'm going to say it straight out of the bag. This is a fantastic performance by William Shatner as Kirk. It's one of his, I think it's amazing.
At times, yes. There are other times. But at times,
we can talk about that. Yeah.
I really think the motion picture is where the pausing Shatner idea comes from, because he pauses so much unnecessarily in this movie. And I think it's because the movie's so long, he just had to fill up time. But especially whenever he meets Lieutenant Sonak at Starfleet headquarters, his line is literally, "It is my intention to be on that ship following that meeting. Report to me in 1 hour."
Yes.
It's William Shatner making fun of William Shatner.
In a way.
You know, whenever Shatner gets up there and says, "I do not talk like this," I want to show the scene and says, "Yes, you do."
I thought he was doing that on purpose because it was like the movies versus a TV show. I thought maybe he was trying to be more of a movie star. I don't know.
Look, I'm going to defend his performance into it. I know. Look, let's face it. Kirk is a jerk in this film. All right,
He
his
is.
ego
yeah.
is driving him, places just to get what he wants. But essentially, that's a scripted choice. So I think Shatner does an excellent job of portraying that. That's why I'm kind of defending it. And he's got a great toupee in this film. It's probably the best one he's got so far.
It blends very well.
Blends very well.
Yes.
Oh, we'll get it. So, let's talk about that then. Kirk's basically, his drive, his purpose in this film. How did that sit with you guys? Because he's on a one-way roadshow of I want mine.
I felt very personally, I felt like I questioned, was this really Kirk written in with the mentality of who Kirk was? Because say what you will about Kirk. The Kirk we see in this movie is kind of envious and vindictive and jealous and taking every little opportunity to remove this young captain who knows his ship, who really truly was qualified, and kind of insert himself as the better individual, when in fact he showed time again that he really wasn't. And I'm like, was that really how Kirk behaved in the TV show as a captain, not as an actor, but as a captain? Did he really behave that way? And I don't know that I see that. But then again, I wonder, well, he's now an admiral, missing being a captain, missing being out there, being a space cowboy. Could this be a natural progression of his emotional development and need to want to be in charge and be viewed the way he used to be when he was captain?
Well, there's a common theme throughout this movie in the way of similar arcs for all the characters, and that is, being driven for a certain outcome, almost being drawn to something. And Kirk's very much about getting the Enterprise back. Did his 5-year mission. He's now an admiral. All he wants in life is to be captain of the Enterprise. The way he goes about it is very manipulative, however, and a bit, But was he wrong in saying he was the right man for the job for that mission? Kind of had proven his worth up to that point, hadn't he? Saved the universe a few times. He's probably going to get the front seat ticket.
I don't know.
Honestly, I feel like this is one of the aspects of the script that fails Kirk, is that we don't understand his motivation, and he does come off as a jerk. He comes off as this condescending old man who doesn't understand things. He's like an old man who can't program his VCR and yet, throws things at it because it won't record Jeopardy.
Yes.
I know this is going to be a weird thing to say about Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I honestly think it needed more scenes that showed where Captain Kirk was on Earth, what his mindset was, what being away from the Enterprise was like for him. Because I think we would have empathized with him more. Because honestly, every time he's in a scene with Decker, I want to slap him.
Yeah.
Because Decker literally saves the ship at one point because of Kirk's incompetence, and there's no other way to say it. The man was incompetent. Kirk relents and says, "You saved the ship." "I'm aware of that, sir." "Immediately stop competing with me, Decker."
Yeah,
the competition is he just saved the ship, you jerk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why Wolf called him out. Rightfully so.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that fails Captain Kirk is that I don't think Kirk learns anything.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think he's humbled. I don't think that he comes out of this as a better person. I think he comes out of this getting what he wants.
Exactly what he gets.
This is like
watching, a brat.
Yeah, this is like watching one of those high school sports movies where the bully wins the big game and gets the girl at the end. And I'm just like, really?
And what's interesting is that he points out, his commander points out, you don't know the ship.
Yeah.
It's changed. And instead of Kirk going, you know what, before this mission is over, I'm going to know this ship. He says, well, I hope you nurse me into knowing what I need to know. No, I would have been like, no,
Yeah.
pick up a pad and learn your shit.
I got a job, Kirk. I ain't got
Like,
time
are
for
you
your crap.
serious?
I don't
Yeah,
think you can
I did
kind
not
of
like
talk to an
that.
admiral like that, though. I don't think you get on. But you kind of are mentioning the man here, Decker, which is the guy who's the current captain of the USS Enterprise, and we get that scene.
Yeah.
Just for any curious, if you're wondering why there's a poo emoji over Decker's face, please look up the actor. I'm not here to
Yeah.
promote the actor. I just want to talk about the character. So, what, Puka, we can call him? You know, a Dookie? We'll call him
He
Dookie
ruined
instead
the
of
Upper
movie
Decker.
Decker.
for me.
Either
like
way,
it,
it's a great scene. It's a great scene because it exposes Kirk's selfishness right there and then.
Yep.
And the fact that Decker calls him out immediately, going, "No, you're not sorry in any way. You wanted this. This is clearly you've come in, you've lowballed me, you've taken my ship away from me." So yeah, every right. But the OGs are happy to see him, and don't they look
Yes,
great? Look at
my
Ahura.
Mm.
Wow.
They did her journey
Amazing.
with the earpiece though. They made it bigger for some reason in this movie. I was like, what is
Going to be
going
more
on?
cinematic. That's the idea of it. More cinematic. So
She was fabulous in TOS. And
Yeah.
she is more fabulous in the first movie, and she was extra fabulous in the last one she was in. The woman is exudes fabulous. Okay, she
Problem
is
is,
an
Nita,
amazing representation.
problem is, Nita, like besides Kirk, McCoy, and Spock, the rest of the OG crew don't get a lot to do in this film.
No, not in this
They have
film. No.
not enough, and I think we'd all agree with that. We needed
Yes.
more of them.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think it has to do though a lot with the fact of what the storyline was about. It
Yes.
really couldn't have included all of the OG characters as much because it really was about this entity and this thing that was coming towards Earth and it was destroying Klingon ships and space stations on its way, and the investigation of what this was. There was no room in that story to include every single one of them for a
Yeah.
long period of time. Like we got in the other movies, we really got to see more of them.
Well, the thing is the plot really, when it comes down to the main characters, and I was going to get into this later, but I'll just drop it now. Another big arc in this film is the breakdown between Spock, McCoy, and Kirk's relationship. And you notice that throughout this film because that energy there, that kind of back and forth is missing from the film via design. And just by the end of it, we start to get that, that little bit of back and forth, that chemistry. So that's also part of this journey is those three people kind of
Exactly.
getting there and rekindling.
Yeah. And I
What
think
about
that
this
Spock's
scene?
journey with Kolinar and having to separate from emotions, and now he has these two individuals that ignite emotion in him, makes it really hard for him to connect without those emotions. So now he has to make a decision.
Yeah. Well, Spock, if we were talking about Spock,
Yes,
for me,
Spock is
his
what we're
journey
talking about.
is
Mhm.
is like his realization that logic isn't as powerful without emotion being with it. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where, like, I feel he
I
comes
actually
to
think
Jace.
Spock kind of comes off as a little depressed in this movie too.
Yeah.
Right?
He's really
Yeah.
self-questioning a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's questioning
Midlife crisis, big
Yeah.
time.
Existential crisis. Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
you know, with as long as Vulcans live, maybe it's like teenage angst. I don't know. But I think he's questioning himself. He's questioning his place in the universe because he's had two things taken from him. He's had logic taken from him, and he's had the place that he belonged to taken from him. And whenever he comes back, he's out of step with everybody. He's kind of
Yeah.
in a fugue state.
Yeah.
And I like his arc where he kind of reconnects with that part of himself by
Finds his
bonding with
purpose.
Beeger.
Yeah, I mean, I think that not achieving Kolinar had a huge impact on him because achieving it would have demonstrated to Vulcans who never saw him as a true Vulcan because of his mixed race, that he was truly a Vulcan. As he
Well, he
always
purged all of
perceived.
his emotions.
Exactly. Oh, look, he was able to accomplish this. He's a true Vulcan. But not accomplishing it made what their opinions were of him solidified. And I could personally understand where that is coming from because actually was talking to Navi about how, I've had to fight um, the stereotypes as a female, as a Latina, and the things I was said to me in a professional and non-professional environment, that it's like you fight so hard to not be the stereotype. That is not a flex, by the way, in any way, shape, or form. And then you have it thrown at you by others expecting it. And it's like,
Right.
no, what? It really does something to your brain when that happens, and to your emotions. And I can understand how Spock must have had that moment of, wait a minute, I am Vulcan. This is what a Vulcan is. Because had he been 100% Vulcan and been the same person, no one would have questioned his Vulcanness.
All right, let's Navia.
Mhm.
What about this scene? Did this throw you off seeing this?
I hate
It's
it.
a bit of a horrific scene, right?
Yeah. It's awful.
I love it.
It's
It's
really
weird
why.
though, but it's one of the rare times where you see what's at
Yeah.
stake with these things. And like anything, something's going to go wrong occasionally. And there's an audio noise that they make when they lose them.
Yeah.
Terrifying. I do remember seeing that in the movies as being a really scary moment.
I think the
Yeah.
fact that you can hear the scream after
Yeah.
all the lights
Yeah.
go out and the effects go off and there's just that empty pad and you can still hear the echo of that scream. That's the worst part. I do think it's funny that after they get the transporter fixed, who's the first person they
Yeah.
bring up? The man who is most afraid of the transporter. 'Cause, I wanted to see that scene where he's down on Earth going, I hear the transporter killed 2 people. No, Dr. McCoy, that never happened. Where's Commander Stonak? He's on vacation.
Yeah, I doubt it. Well,
You
you
don't
brought
like
it
to
up.
call him, do you?
Well, you brought it up, Jace. Like, look at that magnificent beard and medallion.
My goodness.
Hey.
The 70s just
Oh, boy.
oozed all over this movie.
How good
love
He
is
just came
that?
from the club, Studio 54, from a 3-day bender of coke and alcohol and dancing. So
All right,
give a
then.
man a break.
No wonder he's upset. He was on the dance floor with like a pacifier in his mouth, woman on this side, man on this side, just gyrating and just Dr. McCoy, we have to go, no, this is Stella. We're going to have a child together.
There is a bit of... I think there's a rather telling moment in the scene, though, where Kirk pleads with him. I need you. Like, he says it twice. Like, I can't do this without it. So, again, going back to about informing Kirk's kind of journey through this film, he is doing desperate things because he needs these guys back in his life.
He
You know?
literally
does.
had McCoy drafted and
Yeah.
put on board the ship. I mean, that is a horrible thing to
Yeah.
do. Absolutely awful. That would be like me going and getting like my friend who works at Arby's and dragging him back to McDonald's. Like, I need you to help me make this McCheese.
But really, the core of this plot is not really around any of the main cast of Star Trek that we knew up to that point.
It's space
The real
romance.
core of this plot is romance.
Yes.
And it's between, obviously,
Riker and Troy.
Basically.
Alaya and Decker.
Okay,
So,
Roddenberry admitted whenever he came up with the Next Generation, he put Decker and Aaliyah on the show and called them Riker and Troy. So that's where Riker and Troy come from.
those two actors have great chemistry, I think. I buy the fact that they had a past, and I buy the fact that they have a very powerful emotional connection.
Yeah,
I
for
think it
everything that Upper Decker did, you really have to
That's the
admit
name.
whenever he's not being wooden and boring, the times that he's not being wooden and boring is the time that he's with Perseus Kambata,
Yeah.
who is such a lovely look. She is so beautiful in this movie.
Yes.
I know you've probably seen the video of her getting her head shaved for this movie.
Oh,
She's just got this
I read
look
the
on her face the
magazine.
entire time. She had
Mhm.
nothing to worry about. She's still absolutely beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
That
absolutely
when I
gorgeous.
read her story, because I saw it in a Star Trek magazine, and I read it and I saw the pictures, and she literally was crying. I can understand that emotion, because it is very cultural for, because she came onto the motion picture with quite a backing of her own. Like, she's a Bollywood star. At this time, she was famous in Bollywood movies, and it is very cultural for women to have long hair and beautiful hair. And I mean, they have, come on, look at Navia's hair, among the most beautiful hair there is. And here she goes, and she gets it shaved off for the part, because they tried the ball cap, and it just didn't look realistic enough, and she was okay with doing it for the part. Like, that is commitment. But you're going to feel some kind of way about losing all your hair. Like, I she's gorgeous, though. I
Well,
mean,
you're preaching
bald
to the
and all.
converted here, Nita, all right? All right. But she plays a real integral part in this movie.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I really wished it wasn't the end of her character. I mean, it was necessary. I mean, she literally dies twice in this film, I think, really, in a way. A version of her dies twice. But before we get anywhere near the kind of end, this scene here, and all I'm going to say is, torpedoes away! Holy hell. Great visuals, but that line, guys.
Oh, we're gonna do this when we do that.
That whole
That was the scene I used to make fun of all the time.
Yeah, it is the cringe moment, right?
Mr. Chekhov, send my phaser.
it went on for like 10
No!
minutes.
Lay that phaser
And maybe one of you
over.
guys can explain what was that whole. I never understood it.
What?
Why were they like
Oh, they were caught
doubling
in
up?
Yeah.
because they were caught in this warp distortion that kind of moved them into their own little kind of black hole, and they were stuck and slowing everything down. Because Kirk, being the jerk Kirk, he decided, nah, we're going for it. I don't care if it's tested or not. We're going for it. And there was a mistake. And when Jason was mentioning earlier about the moment that Kirk nearly blew up the ship, this is it, right?
Yeah, this is it. This is where
Because-
Kirk almost blows up the ship just by being a
Yeah,
dumb old
this is
man.
it.
Yes.
Dumb old man. Yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, like, there is a lot of that in this film, isn't it? I mean, there's two scenes that especially got, well, the Enterprise scene that we get with him coming in to see the Enterprise, that's clocked in at around 5 minutes.
And it's
And the
worth every second. I
It is
love me
beautiful.
some good starship porn, and that
Beautiful.
is high quality.
When we go into Voyager, the Vija, sorry, spoiler alert, when we go into Vija, that's 10 minutes. Right? So everything is being
Worth
played
every
out.
minute.
And they were more
Who is that?
focused- Who is that? That was a special
You
guest
need
star. That was your
assistance.
little brother or something, was it?
That's my brother.
I'm calling
Hey, what's his
911
name?
right now.
Cameo. Cameo, I love it.
Let's go.
He's
get
like,
him.
I didn't like the film. I'm out of here. I'm not talking about it. Not my jam. Not my jam. The great scene after that, after, Decker cleans up, is this scene, Jason. You mentioned this one again earlier too. This combative thing with Kirk basically going, what was that? You disobeyed my orders. And he's like, well, because of this, this, and this. Otherwise, boom. And he's, why are you competing with me? It was such a petulant, childish
Yes.
response to that, wasn't it?
As
That is
they
what we
stand
call
there in
true
pajamas.
Boomer energy.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
And what
But
is
yeah.
with the uniforms? They look like PJs, really.
Yeah.
Okay, the uniform. We're going to get into the uniform discussion. It's going to take
Okay.
another hour because I
Okay.
will defend the top half of those uniforms all day
I will
long.
defend the two-piece uniforms, the ones that are the onesies.
That's gotta
No.
go.
No,
the
that-
two-piece
those-
I can deal with. The
I've
onesie,
seen
no.
more of Stephen Collins and George Takei than I ever thought I would.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how this movie got a G because there's certain parts of this movie where I was like,
it
oh,
is a G too.
It is G, yes.
It is.
Just really
It
surprising
is
me. 'cause
G,
some of the
even though you
themes-
can see the entire thing right there.
Yes, the package
Yeah.
was out.
Yes.
I mean, and that's the other thing we haven't really thought about. This film, at its core and infuses through the entire film, is very sexual.
Oh
Concept, by
yeah.
design, by plot. It's very, and there are visuals later in this movie that are
yeah.
indeed highly sexual.
They
but what
fly
about the
right
first
into V'ger's
sentence?
cloaca. I mean, it's right there.
What about the first sentence that Aaliyah says when she meets
Oh my
Captain
Oh,
Kirk?
god, yes.
Why was that even a thing? Like, I don't meet my boss and say something to that effect.
Okay,
Chase, you'll explain. Please explain.
there's some beta reason for that. It's because Deltans are highly sexual people, and
Best at it.
to them, sex is like shaking hands.
Oh,
It's like, oh, somebody new, rip. So to integrate into a more conservative society, as everyone else in the galaxy is not that way, they sign vows of celibacy to serve in Starfleet. Which, first of all, the fact that that's on file is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
exactly.
It should be one of those things like, can you please just not bone everyone on the ship? Yeah, sure. That's it. That's all you have to say.
Keep it private. Like, again,
Is she telepathic though? Are they in telepathic? Like I wondered, or like, did she sense the sexual attraction that the men were instantly having for it? Because there's a shot where Chekhov, as soon as she opens the door, they cut to Chekhov, and he's got this real perverted grin on his face. Like,
Oh, the men on this ship leer. And it's
they
kinda
leer.
gross.
That's the word, leer.
It's kind of
it
gross.
was the 70s.
It
They
is
were all
gross.
high on coke.
If you've ever seen, I don't know if you guys have seen the VHS copy, which is actually 17 minutes longer.
Oh wow,
They
okay.
have these extra scenes with Sulu, like literally falling all over himself, trying to show her the helm and everything. And she says, Mr. Sulu,
that's
it's
acting.
okay. My vow of celibacy is on record. I'm as safe as a normal female. And first of all, I'm like, safe? Are you like a
That's an
praying
interesting
mantis?
word.
Yeah. And great acting by George Takei there. Clearly.
Oh my, look
Oh
how
my.
attracted to you I am. My goodness. You and your face and your ears and, I don't know, shoulders. Let's continue.
So we finally, 40 minutes into this film, we get, oh my God, Spock. He returns.
I love
And,
that costume.
And yeah, nice
Cool
costume. It's certainly, when you think about Ethan Peck and him, they look so different, don't
Oh,
they?
yeah.
So different. I reckon Leonard Nimoy's getting in his late 40s at this point playing Spock, isn't he?
Why does he have
I'm
a
not
little scar
100%
there?
certain.
Those scars are probably like acne scars when he was normal, human,
Oh, okay.
younger, and
Yeah.
they covered it with a lot of makeup.
Well, Shatner's 90, and him and Leonard Nimoy were almost the same age. They were almost like just like
Take
2
off
months
44
apart. So,
years.
yeah, so he was late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I can't
Now-
math that quick.
Now, remember before when I talked about part of the journey, I think, is the three main characters reconnecting. I think it's really played out fairly directly in this scene here, where you get the three of them together in the room. And, at one point, Kirk's talk around, almost like begging Spock, going, please, sit down. Because of Kirk's desperation to get his team around them. And the fact that Spock's not really playing ball here, he's emotionally... Well, I don't know if he's disconnected, but I feel like he's hyper-focused on that consciousness more than what's directly around him. What were you guys' thoughts?
I'm going to go on record again and saying I think Spock is actually a little depressed here. And I think the hyper-focus that he is feeling is maybe this is what can give me purpose. Maybe this will give me a direction. So
I think that
fully agree.
he viewed that he didn't get Kolinar. He didn't accomplish that as a failure. As a Vulcan, he failed.
Sorry,
And
doing the Kolinar with rubber glove?
no.
Oh, that's good.
And I think that he felt, this entity was probably what was interfering with everything during his process, because he said that he was sensing this entity for a while now, right? So now here and he wants to achieve understanding of this entity so that he can now conquer these emotions and move forward and prove himself as a Vulcan. Like there's a lot going on. And, who's to say that Vulcans don't deal with depression at some level? It is an emotion. They do have them. They just suppress them. And suppressing emotions does not make them not there.
Yeah, true. The next scene, from someone who likes how they make this stuff, the shot where Vija sends a beam into the bridge, and we see basically the demise of that poor girl. But I don't know about you, how visually amazing was that? I thought, because it's not only they did that effect optically. The second thing, if you notice, everything's kind of sped up but jerky. And I don't know, that scene was just like, stands out to me as a bit of an uber nerd how they make this, how cool that was done. The fact that the beam's coming through, the fact that the look on her face when she's like, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Good help you are, Decker, in the background. I
it
don't
was
know.
zapping them, though. It was like,
yeah.
It's like touching a Tesla coil. No.
But that moment that I just showed, that's the moment she knows she's dead. She's toast. She's going to get fried
And
up.
regretting that vow of celibacy.
Yeah. But of course, like a Marvel movie, she's not dead. She's come back in a different version.
She got better.
We get the Vision version of her with her little amulet.
She's got a medallion that would rival McCoy's now because it lights up.
I still want to cosplay her.
Absolutely. She's brilliant from this moment forward. I really, maybe not the voice I love, but I really love like the function of her. I think her performance playing such a one-note kind of robot, I thought she was great. I loved it because the moments, she infuses moments later on where you see her memory starting to come to the forefront. That's got to be some skill, right? You know, to be playing and then have to, just by 1 or 2%, show that emotion.
I remember watching this and listening to Dr. Chappell talk about how perfect of a copy she was. Oh, she's even got eye moisture. She's a perfect copy of Ilea. And then Ilea gets up and goes, "You are the Kirk unit. You will take me here." And it's like got that reverb and everything. I'm sitting there thinking, that's not a perfect copy. That's like addition. She's got like a voice box.
Yeah,
they
didn't spend
That's what
much
the little
time on
pink thing is. It's a voice box. Giving her the vibrations.
Oh, can we give a little bit of love to Nurse Chappell in this, though?
Yes.
Like Major Bearer.
Dr. Chappell.
Sorry, MD.
Doctor.
MD, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do apologise for that, Dr. Chappell. So great to see Majel Barrett back, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
she had as many scenes as the rest, like as Sulu and everyone else. And in fact, she's cast listed on the same level as George Takei and all that. So quite interesting.
I did think it was interesting that Grace Lee Whitney was brought back as well and is in one scene.
Yeah, and half the time
she kills someone.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Yeoman, you've killed yet again. I hope you're happy. I am, Captain. Thank you. Can I beam someone else up now? Not right now.
Ladies, if you were... Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Something about this movie always struck me as odd, and I could never put my finger on it. What about this movie was strange? And it wasn't until after Ilea is vaporized by V'ger that I realized there is very little sound on the bridge.
Oh.
Most of the time you hear, do 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 do, you hear all that funky background noise. Here it's almost completely silent. And incidentally, another piece of trivia for you. You may have noticed that everyone on the bridge appears to be dubbed over. And they had to, because all of the monitors that they had on the walls made so much noise it was impossible to capture audio. So they had to film the scenes and then go back in later and ADR the lines over them. So that's why it looks kind of like a Godzilla movie at certain times.
It works. It still works. Ladies, if you had to wear this, would this trigger your lost memories? Because that's a pretty nice headband.
don't think so. I think
McCoy
that
wants
was
to
a
wear
bad
it.
memory.
I just love the way they put it on there. Goes, it's beautiful,
Yeah.
and the audience is going, no, it ain't.
Are
Looks
you
like it's got acorns
buying?
hanging off of it?
Are you buying the relationship that's starting to form between Decker and Ilea at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I'm seeing his almost desperation to try to bring her out, like the memories of her out. At this point, he doesn't know what his fate is, but in a way, he does know what his fate is, I think. Yeah. And of course, yeah, sorry, Navi.
Oh, I think that's when that character is at his best, when he's loving Eileen. Or
Yeah, I do too. I agree with you 100% with that. Yeah. But, you know, if you want to be with somebody, you want to be with a strong, independent woman. And who's stronger than Ilea? She busts through metal walls.
Dear Lord.
I love the fact that, look at this hole I literally just made off camera. Isn't it perfect? I did that with my fist, and somehow it punched a 5'5" hole.
Yeah, that's when
While
it starts
wearing
to
that
remind you of
outfit.
the old
I'm a
series,
perfect
doesn't it?
biological copy of this 5'5" woman who can punch through bulkheads of a starship.
Hey.
You know, Spock, he always seems to do stuff off brand. Like, he doesn't always follow orders, right? It's been known throughout the years. He tends to go... Someone's got to pull him aside and discipline him because he seems to do whatever he wants. And in this case, he neck pinches a fellow crewman and steals a spacesuit.
The only crewman on the Enterprise with that perfect Magnum PI mustache.
Whoa, right?
How are
I
you
know.
He was probably thinking, my shift's nearly over, I'm starving, I'm going to get myself some burger and fries, maybe see what's on whatever version of Netflix they have, and boom, you're knocked out. By the guy everybody else loves. Oh my God, Scott.
The
If I
look on
was
his
that
face, too,
crewman,
just-
I'd be
it's
going, that guy knocked me out for no reason.
Well, the look on his face, too, because, I mean, Spock puts his hand on his shoulder, and the guy just kind of goes, why?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a nerve point or an erogenous zone, let's be honest. Like, he was borderline whether he was enjoying that or not. Exactly. But Spock steals the spacesuit because he wants to connect with V'Ger. That draw, that need to want to connect with him has decided that he would go out
in
there.
Spock's defense, nobody was giving him permission to go mind meld with V'Ger.
No,
And he knew that.
Yeah.
yeah.
He knew he had only one way of doing that, and that is doing it as he did. Yeah, there should have been consequences, yes.
Yeah.
But
So
there
he
was
goes
no other
through
way.
So he goes through V'Ger's anus. 'Cause, that's literally what it is.
It is.
We can sit here and pretend it's a portal. It's literally a metal anus.
I never noticed, and I'm sorry for interrupting. I never noticed, but whenever Enterprise does the flyover of V'Ger, whenever it gets to the end of V'Ger, if you look, she actually turns around and faces the orifice. So yes, that is V'Ger's butthole.
Yeah, it is absolutely. See, look,
And they knew what they were doing.
it looks like a butthole.
Yeah.
It does.
Like, it
does.
just is.
It's a
Unfortunately,
space
when
butt.
Spock, it's space butt. When Spock goes deeper into V'Ger, we get some other imagery which
Oh
I'm not
my.
going to comment on. But holy hell, guys! Luckily, the camera is not vertical. That's all I'm going to say because holy hell, they're not even trying at this point to hide it.
You know, supposedly, the effects crew hid images of Darth Vader and Miss Piggy in that entire sequence.
Oh, did
I
they?
found Darth Vader. It's very iffy. I've never found Miss Piggy though.
Oof.
But whenever they go past the space badge and you see the balls with the pulsating balls, supposedly she's in one of those.
Okay.
My gosh, this show is going off the rails.
Really out of control.
Now, I don't know if Spock actually touches V'Ger. Does he just kind of go near it before he gets
Yeah, I
that?
think that
You know, the whole everything all at once kind
But this
of
is
thing.
what happens when you mind meld with space butt.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you go through the scene of Spock screaming frame by frame, it tells you who V'Ger is.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really? Does it
What?
give you a flash of what it
Gives you a
is?
flash of V'Ger. Yes, it does.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful.
But it goes so fast that if you don't know to look for, you don't find it. You don't
Wow.
see it, really. Yeah.
Oh,
So Kirk has to go out. Mind you, you're a captain. You can't send any other crewman to go out and catch Spock. Okay, I'll go with it. Goes out, brings him back. From this moment on, though, we get a very philosophical Spock, don't we? Because he's processing information. He's kind of
know
figured
what
out.
Spock is doing there? What's the guy in the background doing there? What's his deal?
I don't know. It's not the guy he knocked out, was it?
No, not unless they shaved him. That would be kind of funny, though, if it was the same guy and as they're sitting there talking to Spock, are you okay? I'm okay, too! You remember me, the guy you knocked out and left in the fetal position in the airlock?
And those clothes they put on them, they're both Spock and the other guy have on. Must be like, you know, like
The official
sick bay
patient uniform.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
what
patient's
is
uniform.
that about?
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
Everything's got to stop. You know what I love, though? Even though they're very 70s, if we didn't get this film, if they got this film a couple of years later, we wouldn't have got that. So
Yeah,
to me, I always go, thank God they were able to give a Star Trek film that was very 70s inspired. So I'm really happy with the summer, even though I would never wear any of it, except maybe Kirk's Admiral uniform. And I like his T-shirt, the white T-shirt. I do like that. I think that's quite good.
I'd wear one of those uniforms that shows off the chest hair.
Yeah.
All right, I'm being attacked by a cat.
Yeah, I was just say what's going on there.
But he does live with battle.
Now Spock. Oh, there we go. Look how fat they're getting.
Oh, look at this.
I know.
Murder
Big belly.
Bean.
Big
Is that Murder
belly.
Bean or
This
Demona?
is Murder Bean, yes.
Yeah, look how much she's growing. It's crazy. Now, back to the movie. Spock isn't he knows now. He understands what Voyager needs. And Voyager needs the one thing that can never... Well, it's after its creator, right? That's what it feels its purpose is. But it's never really going to have, and this is what Spock explains, what it really craves, and that is human touch or emotion. You know, it's just not possible for it. And the realization that Vija's a child. And I thought that was a really telling moment. That I thought helps the audience refrain what type of being they're dealing with. And from that child perspective, that gives Kirk an advantage to be able to handle that when he makes a deal, if you remember, because Vija's just about to blow the planet Earth up. And he's able to negotiate because he knows it's a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A smart child.
A smart child. And, spoiler alert, guys, let's talk about it. Navia, I made a joke in the chat the other day about Vija, and you didn't react, and then 24 hours later go, I get the joke now because I've seen the film. And that is, yes, the big plot twist of the film, that it's actually a satellite from Earth that was sent out. Voyager 6. Because I sent an image of that, guys. I sent an image up, and Navi goes, "Is that Voyager 1 or Voyager 2?" And I went, "LOL, number 6." And she didn't comment. And then she's gone and watched the film, come back, got your joke now.
Wow, he doesn't know anything about the
He does nothing about space program. I don't know anything about space program. I do know about the science fiction Star Trek space program. That's it. So,
but it does make you wonder all of the probes that have been sent out to collect data. You know, what happens when we don't get them back? We run into them hundreds of years later.
I mean, they've proven that aliens are a thing now, so they're probably collecting all our satellites.
There you go.
which is kind of but they're in our atmosphere though, Navi. They're flying around in our skies. They don't need to worry about satellites out there. They're already here.
True.
Now, I will say, visual effects wise, I love the moment where the Enterprise actually flies up, gets obviously Voyager's controlling all of it, but that's a cool little bridge that they get. So they're able to stand on top of the Enterprise which is we hadn't seen that before at that point, so that was really cool. And then they get to walk along to that, where they find the satellite. I thought I was blown. I keep coming back to special effects. I was so blown away what they pulled off in 1979.
Yeah.
Not one bit of computer graphics to make any of that. It was done by Douglas Trumbull and John Dykstra who'd done Star Wars in 2001. And the caliber of artists means that we get, some stuff that we just take for granted today. But back in 79, that was epic. Now, what about this? This is what it all leads to.
I really like that moment. I remember as a kid laughing because of how his hair looked throughout that whole process. But watching it as an adult, it really showed what the movie was about. That's when it really was solidified that this was a space romance, and it was about their romance. And he gave up his life, quite literally, to be back with her.
Yeah, look, it really, on paper, probably thought, oh, this is going to be a boring scene. But the way they made it, it was very emotional. Yeah. And when he turns around and says, I want this as much as you wanted the Enterprise back, I believe it. I'm absolutely convinced. And I'm okay with him doing that from a moral perspective because I was convinced that he knew this was the right thing to do. So I really kind of like it. I like the overall kind of philosophy about merging technology and humanity kind of together. I kind of like that as well. However, straight after it falls very flat for me. So, it falls very flat for me because the film just gets tied up like instantly. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really
They were
does.
in such a hurry to tie this movie up that McCoy and Spock literally changed jackets in between cuts.
What was that potato sack they had him in?
I don't know.
What is the deal with the Hessian bags? Yeah.
If you look though, at one point, the armband, McCoy and Spock switched jackets at one point. Just like, damn, they're wearing different jackets. It's very strange. I think that this movie was an attempt to kind of rip off the plot of 2001. Because that's the Star Baby sequence at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And, 2001 had the good sense to nope out once, Dave Bowman became the Star Baby. This one, we've got to have that epilogue. And the epilogue is it's okay. I don't think it really overstays its welcome. But on the other hand, it really wasn't needed either. It almost feels like they're spoon feeding us at that point. Like, this was a very cerebral movie. Let's explain what just happened to everyone who's too stupid to understand. Did everybody just freeze?
I think Jace is frozen.
Thank God. Okay. Thank God. All right.
But I didn't know you were finished.
I know.
I was finished. I was. What did you guys think? I'm going to take over hosting for just a moment until James returns.
I thought it was very interesting that they didn't give you kind of a snippet of what the second movie would like. They didn't even give you an indication that a second movie was to come. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I thought that was interesting.
It might not have been planned yet, right? Or do they know they're going to make a second?
It was not planned because they had no idea if this movie was even going to be a hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they honestly didn't think it was going to be a box office performer at all. And then suddenly they did. So yes, there he is.
Oh, welcome.
Media wasn't happy with some of my comments, clearly, and hung my computer like.
Okay,
great.
if he starts calling us Jason Unit or Navia Unit, be worried.
I don't know what happened there, guys, but we're at the tail end of it. Thanks for filling in. Yeah,
honestly,
kind
not that hard.
No, it's not really.
That's why I'm doing it. To do this and just
100%. I'm the head monkey. That's why I'm doing it. That's kind of it at the end of the film. So it ends with a whimper rather than a strength, I think. Anyway, the movie overall. But I'm glad the movie exists. I'm glad it exists. I do look at that fondly. I think it's very indicative of old school Hollywood in the director they chose, the music, the grandeur. But yeah, I mean, it's not the one I put on for repeat viewing all the time.
Right.
I think that this is an interesting movie. It's very cerebral. It's got an intelligent plot. I think that they were trying to, as I said earlier, they were trying to emulate 2001: A Space Odyssey and a little bit of Star Wars, because you can see that influence on there as well. And I do think this is the only Star Trek film that you can look at and say, yeah, that is a science fiction epic right there.
Yes.
Does it work all the time? No. Could it have lost half an hour? Yeah. But just the fact that they slow down and they show you how beautiful the Enterprise is, and I will go on record here, I've said this before, the refit Enterprise is the most beautiful science fiction spaceship that has ever been put on film, and it never looked better than it did in this movie. As a matter of fact, this model was so hard to shoot because of the pearlescent paint that they actually repainted it for the sequels, because they could not, the lights and everything would always cause the blue screen to bleed over into it. But I love the pearlescent look of the Enterprise in this movie. I just think she's just gorgeous. She's bae. I love her.
Brilliant. Navia, what were your takeaway from this movie? When you only saw it yesterday, what is your takeaway?
I think after everything you guys have said, I'm gonna have to do rewatch it a couple of times, because I just was really not impressed with this movie. It just seemed really forgettable for me, and also the fact that it just reminded me of Star Wars so much. As soon as it came on screen, I was like, "This is Star Wars! This is Star Wars! This is Star Wars!" That kept going through my mind. But because like from the universe, or the uniforms to like how the ship looked and everything, the metallic ship, the inside, not the outside. The outside was beautiful. The inside, I was just like, "What's going on here?" But yeah, I'm definitely have to rewatch this movie a couple more times, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Nita, what was your takeaway?
I've always liked this movie. I will continue to like this movie. It is not my favorite of the TOS movies. Wrath of Khan, my favorite.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that they reintroduce the Klingons and the new look of the Klingons. It definitely made them look like a different species. I love that refit of them. That was very exciting to see. I'll always love this movie because it introduced a whole segue of movies for us in Star Trek. So it has more of a nostalgic kind of feel for me.
Brilliant. I must also, just to add on to that, I think because of the movie, because it was so slow down and paced, it actually helped get number 2 made. Because they were like, okay, we got to change things up a bit here.
Yep.
So, because of that, we get an action adventure film, the next one, which I think, is a reason why. I mean, if number 2 didn't work, we were never going to get number 3. Like, it was over. So, loved it. They were our thoughts. And like I said, guys, the first week of every month from now for the next 13, 14 months, we're going to be going over a different Star Trek film every month in order. So don't forget to be able to come back and check out Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. But next week, we are back with the Agony Booth, aren't we, Jason?
We are. We're back on our BS, and I'm so happy.
Absolutely. So it's one of our most favourite shows to do, because what we do, guys, if you haven't seen it before, we take a look at the accused worst Star Trek episodes in all of the TV shows, and we go back and we get randomly select, and then we do a review on it. So just let me get organised, because V just stuffed things up for me earlier. And here we go. And let's
Sure,
so what we're
blame
going to
Vija.
do. I'm going to blame VJ. I've got to blame him. I've got to blame him. Now, what we do to decide which episode we're going to, we spin a wheel. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to spin the wheel of agony.
We have 3 slices of mercy, though.
We do.
So in case you're looking up there thinking, the best of both worlds, those monsters, those are good episodes.
Yes, in the pale moonlight. What kind of sick people would put that down as a bad episode, Yeah, exactly, Nita. You've got it there. So, are we? Do you know there's been a few more added in the last couple of hours, guys? We have added a couple of Voyager episodes and a Star Trek Strange New World episode.
You asked me to look on there and take away.
Yeah, did you forget one?
Yeah, I did.
Favorite Son.
We did Favorite Son, didn't we?
We did do. If we land on Favorite Son, we'll just spin it again.
Yes,
it's all good.
Yeah, we did that one.
Yeah.
Please
like
it's watch that again.
There's so much
you didn't
trauma.
Take Haven off either, and I called Haven out. I said, "Oh, we did Haven." I did. I got the text. I can prove it.
Yeah, and I didn't take it off. There you go.
Falling down on your job.
Oh, I am. I'm absolutely.
It's V'ger's fault.
Hey guys, there's so much trauma related to doing the agony booth. All right, there are certain things I need to block out so I can survive.
We're gonna blame it on V'ger.
Let's blame it on Joe. He's not here. We'll just blame it.
Let's blame it on Joe. Oh no.
Oh great. I blame Jason.
God.
We are doing next week another Voyager app. And there seems to be a lot of... Now, let's remove that one so we never have to worry about that again.
I remember watching that one. I seen it once, and I just remember thinking that was so boring.
Yeah. And is that the territory we're in now with Agony Booth? Not that they're really bad, but they're now getting boring?
I would rather an episode be really bad than boring. Because, hey, Coda made me feel nothing, but Coda Honor... made me at least feel rage.
True.
That's real true.
I can't argue that.
Speak it, my brother. Speak it.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for watching. Hopefully, you enjoyed watching this as much as we enjoyed doing it. We will be back next week with the Agony Booth, Voyager, Coda. That's what Joe's coming back to. Ha ha. Have fun in Vegas, Joe. But you're watching that next week. So, yes, go play with your starships, folks.
My star shrimps.
Thank you, Nita. Thank you, Navi. And, of course, thank you, Jason Roy Gaston, who's having a snack. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you all out there, somewhere out there.
Check out SpectrumSanctorum.net for all of our podcast merch. We have an entire merch store ready to give you all the things that you loved about our podcast. And get notified on all of our socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our Spectrum Sanctorum merch store. Follow us today and be sure to hit that bell when you're watching our YouTube videos so you can be notified of when a new episode releases.